yes. Yeah, so
Okay, with Parker Fenady, I Didn't Like You is a short film played at the Romantic Relationship Film Festival, 12 minutes. It's a great film, really well performed. You wrote the script, you directed it, but you're an actor by trade, right? But you didn't act in this film?
yeah, that's right. I kind of came up as an actor. That's where I started, and I got into directing through that. I went to film school at USC. So that was kind of the pipeline of I like when I direct, I like to not act.
Okay.
But I think it helps me a lot, the going back and forth.
Going back from like, have you ever directed something that you acted in before?
Yeah, I have. I directed it in college. I did, and
Okay.
even in that, I wasn't a main character. I kind of put myself as the like the deadpan comic relief character. That was really fun because I think I was able to really get out of my head for it, but not as like a lead. I think that's a lot to take on, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think if maybe once I get a little more experience directing, that'd be a cool thing to undertake. But right now, especially when I'm writing, I kind of just like to keep myself out of it.
Because these are the first thing I noticed is that obviously these are great female roles for someone like you to perform it. Right? So, but you know what I'm saying?
I honestly, so true. Yeah. I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I think every time I write something and I start sharing it around with my producers, at least one will be like, "Do you want to do this?" And I'll be like, thank you, but no." Yeah, I think I write from experience. I think that's kind of what I've been and guided towards. So that makes sense. That being said, if kind of I'm writing from my experience and it's me on camera, that's so much of me. You know what I mean? That's a lot. I think, especially when you have another actor step into it, you get things that you couldn't have ever planned for. So I'm really enjoying that part right now, just seeing other people take the material and elevate it in different ways from their kind of backgrounds.
Because I'm assuming because you've worn that hat before on a professional level, you would have taken that performance in a different way, but then they have a different choice, and it's like, oh, that's interesting choice. And it's like not that it's better or worse, it's just that it's different and it must be interesting for you to witness that.
Yeah, it's fresh. I think
Yeah.
usually, especially when I make a short, I sit with them for so long, because it takes a second to get them all together to get them made. But especially in the case of Alexis, who was the star of my short, she's like an incredible writer in her own right.
Okay.
And so when she came on board, I knew her coming from that background as well as a performer and a writer. I knew immediately it would elevate the material, and it did. Like I think everyone's individual touches on it are so cool. And because we're kind of on an indie vibe,
Yeah.
I'm already all over it. So I think the more of other people's influence I can get in, especially when I edit it, like I'm able to kind of weave everyone else's influence in, which feels really like nice and solid for me right now.
So the film is, I guess for me, well, one, it's a film about friendship, which is there, but that's sort of in the background. But you could tell there's love between these friends, and
Yeah.
but then it's also a film about first love, for like a first love at first sight or a first love story as well. And the twist, I'm not going to give away, but it's not what you expect, I guess, right?
I'll take that. That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I
good. It's 12 minutes and there's a lot going on, and it just feels like great. It's just like a real, even the dialogue, it just feels like it's like they're improvising or they're just,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, for this story especially, I think especially when it comes to anything coming of age, I was just thinking about this. Shorts really lended itself to the medium because I think when you have a coming of age story and you really have a distinct beginning, middle, end, I just don't think that's the way that I experience coming of age, right? Like I feel like it's something you're thrown into and you don't
yeah.
really know when it's beginning, when it's ending, what it was all for, right? Like you kind of process it posthumously. So for me, being able just to throw the characters in, I think was the only approach that made sense. Yeah, so I think it is 12 minutes, and I think it took a lot of confidence in everyone on board, like my actors, the story itself, the confidence to know that people would understand the dynamics without me having to really, show them to anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So you made like it's coming of age in one night, I guess, right? The
Yeah,
person
exactly.
changes. So, okay, I want to get to the performance in a second, but I want to talk about the location because the location's key to your film, right?
Yeah,
Where did you
totally.
shoot it and how did you get it?
Such a good question. So I had been perusing the websites, finding a bunch of different places. We had looked at a few bars. The thing is rental prices for bars is kind of because they have liquor licenses, and that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I was like, what if we found somewhere else that just lent itself to that location? We ended up shooting in a speakeasy in East Hollywood. That's a ho like a hostel type vibe. But we rented out the first floor to be the bar because it's themed as like this bar. And I think that was really helpful for us because we barely had to do any PD work on it. Like the space was already really decorated. We did have two people stumble into set being like, I'm staying here. And we were like, that can't be true. So that was kind of crazy. But yeah, it's like a hotel.
So PD work for people, it's production design work. So
Right.
just so people know,
Totally, that makes sense. Yeah.
just so be because it looks like a bar. It looks like a kind of like a bar where someone goes on a date with. I've been
Right.
on plenty of first
Yeah.
dates in a bar like this. Yeah.
And what I really liked about the space when I first saw it, A, is the bathroom. That bathroom was in that location, which is a huge get. Because we had, explored the idea of doing a bathroom in a different location for the sake of having a pretty bathroom. But what I really liked about the bar space is you can see both dates going on in one shot, right? And then the
Yeah.
second date exists like frame within a frame because you get that really nice arch doorway. And I thought that was kind of cool. To play with the idea of like, okay, what are we really supposed to be looking at and what's important here? Visually, I liked that. The second I saw this space, I was like, I want it. And then we got it. So it was awesome.
And so there's lots of close-ups, but then like you said, you got that shot of like both of them in the same frame, the two friends sitting down, and then they're not the date at the bar, which is kind
Mhm.
of key to your film, right? Because even when they're acting, they're always looking in that direction.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
and I think in terms of the directing too, it made it easier for me because like when we flip the world, because we do that a few times, everything's on like one flat, like horizontal plane.
yeah.
So it's kind of made like the logical, and then for a story where we're kind of dropping people into the middle, it was important for me to have that logic be easy, right? Be like, okay, they're sitting here, they're looking there, that's easy.
Yeah. You don't want to
Yeah.
cross the axis, as they say, I guess, right?
Exactly. Or if I do, I want to do it like in a flat, like exactly 180 flip. Yeah.
So, but according to your blog, this is part of the blog interview that you did. Is this is
Yeah.
part of of a feature film, and you just kind of took a scene from
Yeah, basically, yeah. When I wrote it, I was in a screenwriting class at USC. I was a senior, and this was the first scene I wrote in this idea for a feature that I had. And I continued to go on to write the feature, but I was always kind of drawn back to the scene and feeling like, oh, I don't really know if this scene needs more than what it is. I think it kind of works. So I knew I wanted to make it as a short from then. And now I'm kind of leaning more towards the idea of a pilot. We did like a festival premiere this weekend at Nifty in Seattle, and I got a lot of feedback being like, I want this to be a series. And I was like, interesting. I kind of like the idea of it being episodic. So now I think in terms of rewriting it for like a feature length thing, I would lean more episodic probably.
Well, that's a compliment to you because I think the characters are so rich that you could kind of take a individual story, one B plot, B plot, and kind of give these characters journeys, I guess, right? Instead of focusing on the one character, which I'm assuming you're doing in the feature, right? So
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. For me, I also like I like the idea of doing that because the third friend, right, who we don't really know that much, who kind of just comes in and immediately like drops in her personality. There's a lot of richness in that backstory that was again an exercise in trust, me just being like, she's gonna show up in the bathroom and we're gonna know exactly who she is without her kind of having the time or space to create that. And it's a testament to Yasmin's work. But I really would like the idea to explore her a lot more. I think there's a lot of funny and kind of like, touchy-feely heart background there for her that we could establish. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in pursuing that episodic route with it. I think there's a lot more to mine.
and I'm assuming that the couple is going to have a relationship.
Yeah, and I think we can
Yeah,
even I think can create more yearning to begin. Like I think we
yeah,
can
that's sort of what
keep
I'm
that
getting
out
at.
of
Yeah,
it.
you can, yeah, or the
Yeah.
complications of that. There's a little bit of dysfunction in that
Hmm.
relationship, right? So you can kind of
One
look
could
for it
say,
as
yeah.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's kind of silly. the things that people do to get people's attention, like the ways that we, and that's kind of why we picked the title I Didn't Like You. It's kind of like funny to be the way you first tell someone you like them or even love them. I guess like the little ways we give ourselves away in a very dysfunctional manner. I think fumbly is probably the word I use to describe it. I think that's pretty fun looking at that.
So I want to talk about your direction in a second because I want like because it's a great job, nicely photographed as well from your DP. But you got the bathroom scene, which I'm assuming is a very small space,
So
right?
small.
Okay.
So small.
So,
And
but you nailed
also,
it though with like getting these three characters in this small
thank you.
space. Tell me about, did you like storyboard things? Did you like shot, had you shot list? What was your preparation?
Yeah, my bathroom was, or that bathroom was quite small, and my DP is so large. He's like 6'4", and he's like a wide, like a broad-shouldered man. And so we went into this bathroom. The second I saw it, I was like, this color scheme is perfect. Like this seems like a bathroom that's like fun and cleanly enough to, hang out in socially. But it was so small. Basically, though, the way it was designed is they had like the bathroom space, and then there was a little cutout that was like 2 feet deep that he crouched in for most of that setup. So we were lucky to have that cutout. I think otherwise it wouldn't have really worked. Um, and yeah, my idea was always like the picture in my head was always the poster, which was the three of them sitting against a wall. I kind of just regrouping. I think for me, that's like the image of the film. That's like, okay, no matter what else happens, like they have each other. They can just fall apart together and be like, woof. So I really wanted to get that. That was the more challenging shot. Essentially, I had my DP like crouch in between the sink and the bathroom on
Yeah.
the floor. And like when I tell you each shoulder was touching, the sink in the toilet, he was just crouching in there with his camera like this for like so long. And I felt so bad, but it was my birthday, so I was like, sorry, please
You
do.
shot on your birthday? Okay.
Yeah, we did. So I was like, we can do that. I also that was the hardest shot to get. I'm really glad we did it though, because I think it for me is the shot of the film, and I always pictured it in my head that way. He tried to pitch a few alts to me, and I was like, "Oh, we can do it like this way for sure." But a lot of the scene and the choice to be handheld was him, and I think that really played well, especially after. Or I'm not gonna give anything away, but especially when you have that whip pan to when our third character enters the bathroom
Yeah.
that really lands because it's on that handheld. We shot it all continuous up until that shot
Yeah.
of them against the wall. Like the smudging and stuff was practical, which was super, fun to do. But it was definitely the most like tactical challenge for blocking that we had.
Because yeah, even the next shot is like with the three of them is a long shot as well, right? And you can tell it's a little bit, but it's nice. It's really nicely. I'm assuming he was a camera operator. You said he was a camera operator, so it's handheld, but it's not. There's nothing. There's not shaky or anything like that. It's a really nice job.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for me, well, that's Zayd. He's amazing. And in the entire film, nothing was on sticks besides the very last shot. So he was a steady, steady guy.
Yeah.
But and he's one of my best friends. So testament to him, he's amazing. My plan for me, pacing wise, was to go for more like cutty dialogue, and then throughout the film, basically fall into what feels like a oneer.
Yeah.
I kind of liked the idea of taking all the editing out at the end um, and just letting the actors work. So that was always my plan. And I am very lucky it panned out in a way where it could, where everyone was so on it that like we could keep, you know, the continuous takes for like 30, 40 seconds towards the end. That was really nice to be able to have.
But you also have to mention that the actors are pretty damn like they're so good. So you're
They're
able
so
to do
good.
long shots because their performances are so great. So that you have to throw that as well as an actor. You understand that as
Oh my
well.
gosh. If every take was usable, it was the most, heinously good thing I've ever seen in my life. They're all such pros. They all immediately dropped in. And I think that's also a testament to the prep work we did. We did a good amount of prep in the weeks leading up, but they're all such pros and so good and funny. And I think they were all really invested in the story. And I think that really shows in the way that they're able to play with each other and find play with each other. So yeah, I couldn't have done it without them. truly.
So tell
Yeah.
me about finding like did you have relationships with them before? You're friends with them before the shooting? Where did you find them?
Right. Yeah, so I it started with Alexis, who plays Emilia. We were friends before, and again, as I told you, she's a writer in her own right, and she's incredibly talented. And basically, we had done kind of like, oh, what are you working on? Script swap situation. And I read this feature she wrote, and I was like blown away. It's probably, I mean, I worked in development for years. It's probably my favorite feature I've read, and definitely top five. Like she's incredibly talented, and it has the same like tone, right? Like it's funny, but it has art. And I think from that, and she, she read the short and she, I think, felt kind of a resonance with that. And she immediately was interested in coming on board. And that was huge for me because I knew based on her writing that she would be able to nail it, like without even seeing her audition for it. So I gave the part to her right.
She's a but she's an
And then
accomplished actor. She's like a child actress, right? Like she's
we kind of had like a homie
okay.
audition. So like, yeah, she has also been in some shorts of people that I know. And so I knew her, like I was able to see those shorts in the process, and that was really great. But yeah, I first connected with her as a writer, which is really cool. And then her incredible performance came second. And I've kind of said to her since, I was like, I probably should have at least seen you read it, but I
Yeah.
have no regrets because you were perfect. Like it couldn't have happened better. I couldn't ask for someone stronger to take that role. And I think it's the hardest role because I think she's innocent and vulnerable, but not weak, right? And I think oftentimes innocence is kind of in a tropey way played out as a weakness for our characters. And I think
Yeah.
she was able to do a really great job of painting a picture of a strong person. So yeah, I think she was perfect, and I'm really happy that I was able to read her feature and trust her with that, and she trusted me. And then everyone else came through auditioning, and luckily, because we had Alexis on board, she was able to read with everyone.
Oh wow. So Alexis was committed then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so yeah,
Super. Yeah, because she came on board as a producer as well.
okay.
Which was great. Yeah, so she was really in like her and I were like dropped in. She was really great as a collaborator for me. And it was funny because as we were doing the audition process, we'd like hop off a Zoom on an audition. She'd be like, what about this?" And I was like, "Yeah, that." And we would just kind of play off of each other. And I think it got the script to where it was because she had such great ideas, and I think such like a clear vision of the script that it was really helpful to have her on board.
So a quick segue because you just talked about Zoom auditions. I think
Yeah.
that's that's the COVID effect, obviously. But what do you feel about that now? Like everybody just does Zoom auditions. You don't even have to go in anywhere.
Yeah, I it's like a tough thing to really make a comment about because I've weirdly found it to be very successful.
Yeah.
But I also think oftentimes when I audition people and when I audition and I also read with a lot of friends for auditions and stuff, I know them and so I know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
Um, I think when it came to, especially on a project like this where what people are following is this, people for the story and for the art of it. I think because we were able to get like 8 hours of in-person rehearsal before we shot, it ended up going perfectly. But I saw the seeds of everything I needed to in the audition, so I don't really have any scruples against it. I also think for working actors, there's like a monetary and time commitment that comes with in-person auditions that isn't super maybe worth it in the end, I guess, especially if they're having you send in tapes ahead of time. So yeah, I found it to be really effective. And
Yeah.
that being said, the blocking rehearsal was really important too. So
But it's faster though, right? And it's less
yeah,
striving for everybody.
totally. And I
Yeah.
think also like it's you get to see people in this framing, and in a
Yeah.
lot of times when you're doing like film, that's where you see them. Whereas like when you're doing an in-person audition, they're kind of far away. You're seeing how they're fidgeting with their hands. It's a little distracting, I guess. Um, for me at least, because I'm only considering them in this frame most of the time. So yeah, and you also get to see them like really openly. So I found it to be a really successful way to cast people.
I'm sure there's someone's going to do a course on this because like I've been in mini auditions, like in-person audition. I'd never done a Zoom one because it's been a long time. But it was all the first impression. It was like it's cliche, but it's so important. Where like someone walks into the room and you can just feel their energy. I know it's flaky, cliche, whatever you want to call it, but you can kind of know you know who they are like in like 10 seconds, if that makes any sense.
Right.
So you don't get that on Zoom, but there must be some sort of like, hey, like you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like what
Well,
do
and I
you?
think we also benefited from having Alexis as a reader. I think a lot of the times the awkwardness in Zoom auditions is like reading politics.
Yeah,
Like whether they bring the reader, you bring the reader, they don't know each other.
yeah,
So I think for us, it was kind of a special circumstance where it worked. And also, again, everyone was a friend of, everyone who came in was a friend of production and friend of someone on the team, right? Like the only people who auditioned were like producers,
okay.
friends, and my friends. And so it ended up like yeah, I agree. There is some like where you get that little magical something, but we also took 5 minutes to talk about it before. Like when we held the auditions, especially because I'm young and everyone else is young and it's kind there's kind of an awkwardness in it where I was just like, okay, well, you read the script, like, what do you think? Having a little bit of convo to get to know them before
Yeah.
was really important, just to kind of break that ice. I think very extroverted. Me and Alexis are both Geminis, and so I think we were able to have like a good warm tone on the Zoom auditions.
So that's a May birthday.
That's May 21st.
Okay.
Yeah, the first day of the season.
Okay. So May,
Brag.
June birthday, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Gemini. Okay.
yeah.
All right. So tell me about the post-production. Because obviously you have those long shots in the especially in the last part of the film. Lots of close-ups, lots of one-shots close-ups. What are you feeling about when you will like look at the footage in totality? You feeling like you got a good film right from the start?
Yeah, I think I was feeling like I got a good film. I'm feeling like I got a great film. And then I think I was kind of sitting in like a bounty, like I was sitting in riches because we had two cameras. So we shot continuously and we would do our singles that were kind of the diagonal angle and then our profile close-ups at the same time, two cameras. And the profile close-ups were on a Venice and then the singles were on an Ari. And so I was like overstimulated and I'm like, how do I begin to edit this essentially multi-cam project? And I kind of just I started with the bathroom. Like I started at the back for the edit. Because again, I knew how I want it to feel in terms of like
Yeah.
cutty, and then feeling more like a oneer throughout. So I edited back to front. I started that way. And then once I got to the big scene, the restaurant scene, that was kind of the biggest undertaking. I then went through and I looked for, because I edited it along with my friend from college, Luke Cahill, who is an incredibly talented filmmaker. I worked with him in college.
That name sounds familiar for me, but go ahead.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. He's great. I really and he was an awesome collaborator because we'd worked together before and so we kind of just took our week like he has a 9 to 5 job working
Yeah.
in production and so on the weekends we would hang out and edit together and it was a really helpful thing to have a friend there with me and I would just basically pick on performance and because we had two angles I kind of just on the timeline created two visual layers and then the rest of the edit, once we assembled how we wanted it, became okay, what do we want to do in these close-ups versus the singles? Because they it ended up being like a big point of a question between all of us. Me, Luke, Cooper, who's a producer, and Alexis, who also came into the edit. She has experience with that. She did like years on YouTube editing. So we all came together, but mostly it was like me and Luke for a few months. We got a cut that I was like, I feel really good about this, sent it around, got some feedback, did some final tweaks. I really kind of did marinate in the edit though, because I was like, oh my gosh, like every single frame is changing the movie, and I got a little bit in my head with it. So I let it spiral me out for a second, and then I was like, oh no, we're so fine. We got this. And I was using in the beginning, in my first cut, a lot more of the close-ups, like a lot more. I think everything basically from when the waiter showed up until the end of that scene was close-up. And then it became a deliberation of, is that too much, right? Like because I was like, well, what if people don't know that they're having these feelings? Like, do we need to be this close to telegraph it kind of? And my producer Teddy gave me a really helpful note, which I won't forget. He was like, Parker, like, you need to trust yourself and trust your actors and be like, and understand that people will understand what is happening. So that that close-up feels more earned when you use it. And when
Mm.
you use it more sparingly, it feels kind of like a dessert.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
just give someone only desserts, they're gonna get tired of the sweet taste. And I was like, that's actually a really good advice. So we kind of balanced it out and then cut back and forth from that close-up a lot more.
Gotcha. And then the set the sound design, like who did the sound design?
So we have a sound designer named Adrian Arteaga. He was really, really talented. And we did a good few many passes on that because we also have like a diegetic score. So there's a lot going on. And we were in a restaurant and we used two different mics throughout. So we did a few passes at that. But he's amazing and he mixed like in a few different studios and we have like a stereo and a 5-1 mix. So yeah, he did that. And then it was colored by Avery Niles, who's a friend of mine and also an incredible colorist. And we were able to go into his office and do in-person color sessions for that, which was great. And then it was scored by August, my friend who is a composer. And what's really cool about that as well is we were able to bring in my other friend and write an original song for it. And we like kind of match made them professionally. And we were like, I feel like they would do a great vibe of doing like a rock coming of age, heartfelt song ballad for the end of the
Yeah.
film. Gave them some references. I was like, I kind of want it to feel like you're in Camden and just stumbling through the bars, and it's a combination of like Amy Winehouse and then punk rock. So yeah, I think the post team was really essential. But I also it was really cool to like match make different people in that way, I guess.
A lot of these people from like colleagues from like USC school or
Yeah, so Avery went to USC. August I met through friends at USC.
okay.
Adrian, I met through my on-set sound mixer, sound guy Ethan, Ethan Lee. He goes by sound by Ethan professionally. He's one of my best friends, and they work together. So Adrian boomed on set, which I think was really helpful because he kind of knew what he was getting into with the mix. Like he knew what was going on and when we switched mics. Yeah, I guess it's kind of like one post-college friend group that involves people from USC and Chapman, and then also people who didn't go to college for it but are working in this industry and
Yeah.
kind of meld together into one big pile.
So I gotta ask you because obviously I see a lot of short films, right? And I
Mm.
gotta admit, USC beats every other school, and there's a lot of great European schools as well. And there's NYU, which is they make a lot of great films, but USC every time I see USC submission, it's never bad. It's always something there. So I understand that they get great people applying, so they get obviously talented people applying, but that's just like almost like raw talent, right? So what are they doing in the school that makes that the odds are that there's always a good film being made at that school?
Ooh, good question. Well, thank you so much. And also I agree, everyone I went to college with, slash a lot of people who have met after college, I'm blown away by. I think it's different for everyone because for me, I wasn't in the production track. I was in cinema and media studies. So I didn't make this as a school project. I made it after graduating, right?
Understandable. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, even at this festival that I went to this weekend, like, I was looking at, because we were jury nominated, which is awesome. And I was looking at the other films, and there were two other people I went to USC with in there, and I was like, wow. And I watched them, and I was like, these are incredible films. So I definitely see that point of there's some kind of special sauce happening. I think I think when people apply to the institution, they're already really cool and talented and have a vision,
yeah,
and I think
yeah.
that it's a
That's like
place.
that's the case of other big film schools.
Yeah, yeah. I think it fosters a lot of creativity there. I think there's a lot of like I spent a lot of weekends in college just being on set and PAing and like everyone loves to do this, right? I think that's maybe a lot of the motivation in it is that I like everyone's really excited about it and we will dedicate all of our time to it, even on projects where we're not getting paid or we're not getting paid well. Like
Yeah,
if there's heart behind a project, I see a lot of people rally art like directors and writers in this community, and I think that's a really special thing. And so more so than I'd say just talented directors coming out of USC, I think you have a talented community of people, rallying behind them, being like, I support you and I'm going to help you make this for whatever you can make it
But
with.
that comes with like a certain discipline and hard work too, I guess, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I think you kind of, and for me, it was an interesting exercise because this is my first time really stepping out as a writer. And so you kind of take like a free fall into people's arms, and it's the most rewarding part of the process maybe to see people believe in you without even having anything to show for yourself, I guess, before this, besides like college work, especially as a writer. So for me, that was one of the really beautiful parts of this process, just being like, hey, can I lean on you? And everyone being like, please, I've been asking for that this whole time. Yeah. So I'd say they have like a special sauce. And again, I wrote this first in a screenwriting class. I
Yeah.
think the location is important. I think the community that's there is really important. But I also think just like the spirit of the people in the film school is like undeniable and it's potent. And yeah, it's kind of worked across space and time. And I see a lot of films coming out of other schools as well, like Chapman especially,
Yeah, I
really,
get
really
it. There's a lot, especially in the last few years, a lot of films from Chapman.
great. But I also I am able to see in amongst my peers at USC, I'm like clocking people left and right, being like, wow, they have a really, really beautiful voice. So I think it's really cool. Yeah.
I think the two biggest things that stand out for me, just from a not the story and the emotion, just from a production standpoint, doesn't like you said, this is a small budget. It's the production design, PD as you call it. Like just to know the overall kind of like this your film felt real. Like this is a real setting, real like you know what I mean? And the sound
Definitely.
design. The sound design is like very top-notch professional. Like there's thematic some like theory, like this is what I do for a living, so like this is like subconscious thematic elements that are occurring in the sound design, right? So to evoke the emotion, it's like you can see real like amazing sound design just in student films or your film, right? Independent film. So those are the two big things that stand out for me from USC people.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and that's a testament to Adrian. He's incredible, and he's also such a film nerd. Like him and I just spent so much time talking about movies aside from when we were working together. So I think he understood the journey as well. And so yeah, it was really nice to have that understanding. I know I kind of described to him in what I wanted in the sound design. And I think using vivid like imagery when it comes to any kind of post element was really helpful for me. Like
Yeah.
when I would use, describe things to my colorist, he was like, that's really, really helpful to use kind of that vivid imagery because it helps me.
Yeah.
Um, but for Adrian, I was like, okay, I want you to sit down with these people and be like, what's this movie going to be about? And then kind of when they start talking, I want you to feel the world fade away. In a sense, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, they're here spying on the state, but it feels like no one else is there. Like it feels like it could just be them in the room. Um, and I think he captured that, which was a really beautiful thing. So I think, yeah, those kinds of discussions that exist beforehand. And I also sat in on a few of the mixes, which was nice. But it's really helpful.
So you're on your way. Like you're young. I don't. You're. Can you say how old you are or
I'm
no?
23 years old
23 years old. That's
as
crazy.
of May 21st, our first day of production.
That's
Yeah.
that's nuts for me, right? So you're gonna be 24. So yeah,
Yeah.
I started this industry like before you were born. So that tells you something. So,
What?
but no, but it's great. It's fantastic, and it's like you're on your way, and like so directing, you got acting as well. But you do like, what are you looking for to do next? Like a couple more shorts? Do you want to get into like a feature? What's up for you?
Great question. I right now my plan is, and this is kind of something that I've found throughout the course. I want to make I want to make a trilogy of shorts, about kind of the idea of awakening. I think making the short was so amazing for me, but I also think for me it kind of like made me aware of like, okay, this is only one facet of this experience. And I think out of me after making that fell two other shorts that exist that like explore very different sides of that experience. And I think for me they come in a set, like none of them can exist without each other. And so I think they're tonally different. They're thematically similar, but it's kind of like if you they all stand alone, and then if you watch them together, you're like, okay, that tells one story. That makes sense. But I think for me as a director, I want to do a few more shorts to stretch my directing muscle, and I think
Mhm.
I want to do different shorts that exist in different tones, have different themes.
Yeah.
The next one's a little more experimental, which I think is good. I think if you find one canon that you really like and you're able to really push the boundaries in it, try. So that's my plan. I have two more shorts planned to make, and we're working on getting number two done right now. And then I have a feature idea, but I also am writing this as a pilot. I think I was really inspired at this festival that we went to by everyone's feedback telling me it should be kind of like a girls-esque
Yeah.
pilot. I was like, if I'm getting this feedback indiscriminately, perchance I should write it.
Yeah.
It would be really great to be in like a writer's room at some point. I would love to do that soon-ish.
Yeah. Dysfunctional, but more emotionally balanced than girls, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean like similar but different just in the fact that it's like there are girls, like
Yeah, yeah.
and it is like funny but has kind of heart. Yeah, and it's also like, it's a different time and there's a lot. I think there's the girls made space for a lot of female-led projects and actually kind of I always compare myself. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of more the Greta path because Greta Gerwig, she came up as an actor and
Yeah.
she obviously proved herself as like a
I
writer
heard she
director.
did a big movie a couple years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I actually was working at the production company that made that while she was doing it, and I was like, this is so rad. So for me, though, like she doesn't really star in the films she directs, yet she
Oh,
still has that, actor muscle.
yeah.
I think she's like a great reference for me. Whereas, like, if I kind of Lena Dunham style put myself in girls, like, that's so brave. She's so brave for that, and I think I don't I think when I'm at the helm as a director, more fun for me to step back and watch someone else take it. But yeah, so I those are my plans right now. I have a feature I'm developing. I have the two shorts. They're written, so just production wise, waiting to figure that out. And the pilot's almost done for this. And yeah, I want to get in a writer's room. I've decided. So that's
Gotcha.
exciting.
Like you want to get on a writer's room on a TV show?
Yeah, it'd be really
Yeah, that
cool.
makes sense. Yeah, that's a good. Well, that's an education plus it's good paycheck and you're gonna learn a lot, right? So yeah,
So important, both of those things.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So you can write, you can act, you can direct. This proves it. This film proves that you can direct. It's a nicely directed film. So well, the question is, can you sing and dance? Can you do that as
Sweet.
well?
Not to be the drama, but I can. I like did musical theater growing up. So I was Sophie in Mamma Mia. So I can, but perchance I've like sheathed those abilities.
Yeah.
They're in my pocket for now. But yeah, I grew up like a musical
But you
theater
got to
nerd.
practice those two. You got to practice those two things. You can't
You should
just
see me in
like.
my car.
It's not like riding a bike, right? You got to get out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, rest assured, I'm singing every day. It's just in my car and people are
Exactly.
judging me.
In the shower or no?
I used to be a shower singer, but now I live with people, so that
Gotcha.
feels rude.
Yeah,
You dancing, it's gonna take a lot to get that back out of me. But I did grow up doing both.
gotcha. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. I can't wait to see your next short film, and let's talk again when you make your next short. I'd love to talk to you again.
Yes, it was lovely talking with you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.